This is the Soul-Filled Sisterhood podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist and an empowerment mentor for women. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute, nor is it to convey professional, psychological, financial, or medical advice. If you could use such services, please seek them out from someone you trust. Now here is today's episode. Today's episode is sponsored by Nicole Burgess, who is an empowerment mentor. She helps the highly sensitive, the introverted, and/or the intuitive woman in breaking free from the good girl facade and blaze her own soul-filled trail. Schedule your discovery call today. Go to NicoleBurgessCoaching.com. Well, welcome, sisters. I am so excited about my conversation today. I have Annie Schuessler on, and we're going to talk all about being an introverted woman and a successful business owner. Annie is a business coach for therapists and the creator of the Superpower Method for Therapists program. And she has the podcast called the Therapist Clubhouse, which is a great resource. She helps private practice entrepreneurs build profitable and fulfilling businesses by leveraging their unique superpowers. Annie, I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Would you mind sharing, when did you actually figure out that you were truly an introverted woman?
Okay, this is a really good question. So as a kid, I was super introverted. Like I loved playing in my room by myself for hours and hours and hours to the point where my parents would need to check on me and be like, "Are you sure you're still okay in there?" Or like my sister, who's still my best friend, would be like, "Come on, don't you want to play with me?" So it was really obvious then. But then I think it kind of came back to me as like, oh yeah, this is really who I am, when I was in my 20s and I had really found my tribe. For the first time, I had a group of people who I felt really comfortable with and I wanted to hang out with all the time. And then I noticed that I would still burn out when I was spending too much time with them. And at one point, my friends in my 20s told me, it's really not appropriate to read when you're at a party. Like you can't just grab someone's book off the shelf and start reading it. It doesn't matter if you didn't bring a book yourself. You still can't sit in the corner and read during a party. And I was like, oh no, this is going to make parties a lot harder for me. So I think it all kind of came to a head and became clear in my mid-20s.
Well, what a beautiful reflection and kind of awareness of that. Because I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, I think I've heard that somewhere along my path in life as well. But it's like, oh, you've got to play in these kind of rules. And for introverted women, right, it's knowing that, okay, maybe it's preparing for those times where you're going to be around a lot of people or a lot of energy and being more prepared for that. And then creating the downtime afterwards as well. Right? To recharge and rejuvenate. Because, it can feel very exhausting at those moments for sure.
Yeah. And knowing exactly then I need to pace how many gatherings I'm going to be at so that when I'm there, I can actually be contributing and interacting and connecting with people.
Yes.
And then going home and curling up with books.
Yes, exactly. Well, so tell us a little more about really how you kind of came into building this business that you have, becoming a business coach for truly private practitioners, a psychotherapist. How did you create that, or how did you kind of go, this is where I know you're really stepping more into your true superpowers and helping others find that path as well, or find their own unique kind of voice in that?
Yeah, so I am really a business geek. So that part of me needed to come out when I was working only as a therapist. That part of me wasn't being satisfied, and I would kind of bring out the business geeky side of me with my colleagues, and and sometimes it was really helpful to them, and sometimes it wasn't what they were looking for. So it was like, all right, Annie, like enough with the business geeking out. So that made it really obvious that I needed to be focusing that energy with people who were looking for it. And so that's how I became a business coach, was just kind of doing that more and more, and then realizing, okay, I'm doing a lot of this. I gotta start doing this, for a living.
Well, and so what I'm hearing too is you knowing yourself in that way, where you listen to that part of you who really wanted to come out like, hey, I love geeking out on all things business. And when people ask me, you could have endless conversations, I'm assuming, with being able, that's just like, whoo, it lit you up to be able to feed that part of you. And so like what you're saying too is, hey, I can talk about it with anybody and everybody, yet some people don't want to necessarily go down that road with me. And where you're like, I'm finding other people who keep coming back more and more. So shifting from being the therapist to the business coach then.
Exactly. Yeah. And so then I just kept adding more and more time on my schedule, acknowledging, okay, this is really a business. This is really an important business where I'm contributing. And then a number of years back, I started noticing, as I was business coaching people, I started noticing the process that I would take them through. And especially the process I took people through who then became successful, because it's, so much learning in the beginning. And the people who became successful, it was because we spent time and got clear on their superpowers. And from there, we were able to get really clear on their niche, but also like how to deeply talk about their niche, not just say, oh, I'm a couples therapist, but to really get in touch with how do my gifts kind of interact with the people who I really want to be working with and who get the most out of working with me. So the messaging and getting really clear on superpowers and on niche, that was where people were finding huge success and getting profitable. So then from there, I created a method where I looked at, okay, well, we're going through these steps over and over again. I'm going through these steps with people. So let me make it into a method. And then from there, I created the Superpower method for therapists, and then started working with multiple people at a time, taking them through the process and letting them see each other's transformation, which actually only helps to, push everybody along in that process.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, your own process, right? Your own path of getting really clear of, again, what lights you up, and then taking those steps, taking action to continue to go down more of that path, where all the training, that you and I've had regarding becoming a therapist and going through the licensure process and all those lovely hoops that we go through, it really does help with this really strong foundation of going, okay, let me pause for a little bit, and that we all kind of evolve over time, right? And being able to take those skills and the knowledge that you have and helping others that are also becoming therapists, who are also becoming more light in our world, that are helping other people get tapped back into their own inner wisdom, right? And helping them, but serving them in such a deeper way, because your clientele is able to really hone in on that message and become more of that beacon versus, that general, oh, I'm a couples therapist, or I work with families. It's like, in what way? How do you do that? And the more clear we get, then the more fulfilled we become regarding that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really well said, Nicole. Yeah. And it's not as much, the tactics are good of how to tell people about your work using, these different tactics that are out there, but it's so much more, like you said, getting clear on really, who am I? What am I bringing to the world? Who is this for? And getting really good at talking about it in an aligned way.
Yeah. And I think is, what we're talking about too, being the introverted person, it's, again, there's all the different kind of deeper temperaments that go with it. And this is just kind of a guidepost. It's more of when we really allow ourselves to be in that true alignment, like what we're saying, you really do show up so much more authentically and bring in the people into your business that you really want to, because you're truly giving yourself permission to be all of who you really are.
Yeah, I think that's so true. It's interesting, Nicole. I don't know if this is true for you, but I end up working with a ton of introverts, not just introverts, some, definitely some extroverts, but I am fascinated always with how many people I end up working with who are introverts and are drawn, even though I don't make it front and center in my messaging, they're drawn to something about some permission that I give to introverts about, you don't have to run your business as an extrovert.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you and I were talking a little bit before we started to record, there is so much of that, right? That we still, at least in our society here in the United States, I perceive it as it's very much an extroverted way of being. And that's how you need to run your business. You need to be hustling all the time. You need to be out and be doing all these different things. It just does not work for the introverted person. And what you're saying is that, even though you don't necessarily market specifically to that, and I haven't in my private practice, but in my coaching, I totally do, because there's something that draws them in. It's like about slowing everything down. And when we truly step into those qualities that are totally within us, it will help your business overall.
Yeah.
Love that.
Absolutely.
So how do you then kind of manage, as you've shifted from being the psychotherapist to business coaching and working kind of one-on-one with clients and now doing some group coaching with folks, how do you manage your energy level? Or how do you manage your kind of schedule to make sure you don't burn yourself out, that you aren't just hustling all the time?
Great question. So I have all of these different ways that I protect my energy, and I think of it as protecting our superpowers.
Yeah.
Where we need to uncover them, we need to really get into them, but then we also need to protect them. So for me, one thing is that I have different days of the week when I do different things. And so I have full days in the week when I'm not actually having any appointments. And on those days, I'm really clear on what's the deep work I need to do for my business. Like, am I right now creating new curriculum for my course, or, am I creating some other kind of content? So I have hours and hours to go deep into that and get a ton of work done. And also to completely, there's a part of me that's resting, which is that social, that interactive part of me on those days. And then I have other days when I am, one day a week I see therapy clients still. And then I have other days when I'm, diving into sessions or group sessions with therapists. And my energy to prepare for that, my energy is, built up, and I'm ready to interact, and I'm ready to give, and I don't have anything else on my plate.
Yes.
So that I can just focus on that. And then, when that's done, then I can replenish. So I think for me, it's like having the rhythm to my week that makes room for all the different parts of me and makes room for replenishment. And I think the first step to making that happen was really acknowledging, like, it doesn't matter if there's someone else who can thrive on interacting every day on and off throughout the day. What matters is, like, how am I going to bring my best self forward? So once I figured that out, it gave me permission to set up my schedule really the way that I need to.
Oh, I love that. Again, it's sometimes it's, kind of, what do I want to say? Not pushing against necessarily what society may say or what we've been taught over the years, but it is challenging that for sure. And then saying this, but it doesn't work for me. It, like you're saying, it doesn't bring my best self forward if I'm constantly in depletion or overwhelmed. And I find, in my work with various clients as well, like what you were saying, it's like having that block of time that for some people, they don't need long hours to really do a ton of creativity. But I know for myself, having those blocks, like what you're saying, really helps that really deep processing come forward, and all those ideas you've been percolating on to be able to kind of write and go deeper into that so you can put that out into the world. I love the image that I'm hearing you say of just scheduling blocks, whether this day is, working on my business versus in my business, or I'm working with these specific type of clients over here, whether it's the business coaching or this day is just for the therapy clients, that it's all about having that flexibility, especially as the entrepreneur, right? You create your own schedule. And I think what I know, at least I have done this. I can get into this, I've got to do this and this and this and this. And then I throw the schedule out. And that so much can lead to that overwhelm. And it's like, go back to what is working for you so that, you stay energized versus depleted.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm getting better and better at really timing, and I'm encouraging my clients to get better at timing in terms of usually I'm a pretty productive person, but I would have a tendency to underestimate how long everything takes me. So when I can just look realistically and say, actually, I think that's going to take me an hour. Therefore, that's going to take me 2 hours.
Yes.
And really block out the time. It makes me feel much more successful rather than depleted at the end of the day. Yeah.
And I'm laughing at that because not only do I talk to my clients about that, but I absolutely resonate with that. It's like, dude, no, girl, you got to back that up, because just double that. And then when we start to really see that pattern, you really do become more empowered, because it's like, I know this about myself, and it's okay that it takes me this amount of time to do that. And maybe it's eventually doing this skill or this thing over and over and over. You will eventually outsource it. But for those moments, it's not putting so many tasks on your list. It's also self-defeating.
Yeah.
So, I love that, raising the awareness even with your own clients of like, okay, really kind of get out those timers. How long does it truly take you to also manage your energy level too, regarding all of that?
Right. And let yourself feel successful. Don't let yourself end up feeling like you're always failing your to-do list.
Yes. I think that's a huge thing for women in general, right? That it's kind of the message of hurry on and get to the next thing. And especially when you're your own business owner, it's like, keep going, keep going, keep going. So how do you help your clients really or how do you even celebrate your successes?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I feel like for me, one thing is having a priority every day of this is the thing that's most important, because maybe I've got 20 things to do, but what is the thing that's actually going to move my business forward and get me closer to where I want to be at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, and really prioritizing that thing. So sometimes we can have 20 really valid things that we want to get done. But if we're honest with ourselves, we know that there are 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of those that will actually move the needle forward. And so really doing those first, no excuses.
How do you, when you have those moments of fear, which I'm imagining you do because you're a human and like all of us, there's those times you're like, yeah, but... So that to focus on those 1 or 2 things that keep moving that needle forward, how do you kind of manage those fears that then come up to quiet them so you truly can focus on those 1 or 2 things?
Good question. You mean fears about what if I don't get everything else done?
Yes.
Well, somehow for me, it tends to work the opposite, where if I get the stuff done that maybe I'm afraid to get done, but I know is the most important, then the other stuff becomes a little bit easier. And I feel like I've earned the right to do it because I've gotten those first things done. So I like bookkeeping because I'm weird. Although I'm sure some people listening also love it and are like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you're talking to me. I've got an accounting background. I'm like, I love looking at those numbers. Yeah.
So fun. But it's not for me because I am pretty on top of it. It's not the thing that's going to move the needle forward. So doing something like for example, reaching out to a colleague who I want to collaborate with, that might be the thing that I put off, even though I'll totally benefit from it. I'll enjoy it once I'm doing it. I might put that off in being an introvert, and I'd rather sit and look at my numbers. So if I go ahead and do the reach out, then I'm going to feel better throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I'm going to have more energy to just, take care of the stuff that's easy for me.
I think also doing those things when we I call it getting out of that comfort zone, right? Even though that collaboration will help both of you, it's a win-win situation. It's also continuing to stretch ourselves as introverts, that it's like, okay, this is not a forever kind of thing, that I may feel the initial energy going, oh my goodness, the anticipation of it. And then knowing it's like, okay, then I can take care of myself outside of that. But it's the growth edge too, right? That consistently getting yourself out there more in a way that works for you, because maybe it is that one-on-one conversation or sending that email. But it helps you if you're really wanting to tap into this bigger audience, right? With your business, you really do need to take action all the time. And how are you going to do that? What works truly for you and help building that business?
Oh, I love what you're bringing up, because it's like, I feel like you're really putting your finger on this thing of, sometimes when I talk about work within your superpowers, people can think that means do what's easy. Because in a way it does. In a way it does. Like if you're working in your superpowers, you're going to be in flow a lot more of the time, and you're going to enjoy your work a lot more of the time. And if you really hold yourself to being the biggest version of yourself, to bringing your biggest contribution forward, you're also going to have moments of being outside your comfort zone. Like you were saying, Nicole, like you're going to have to push yourself to do something that is scary, that's uncomfortable, in order to really embrace your superpowers and bring them to more people. So I love that you're bringing that out. Like, using your superpowers doesn't mean you're off the hook for doing things that are hard.
Right. And I think sometimes there's that message. I've read different reviews for various, The Power of the Introvert and the Quiet from all those different authors. And some people will push back like, wow, being an introvert equals negative, or you're putting down. I'm like, no, that's not the message. And that's what you and I are talking about. It's when you discover your true superpowers, you will still need to step outside that comfort zone. You will still need to do things that may appear really challenging in your mind. And yet once you do them, your courage grows, your confidence level grows. And again, you can still be in line with who you are and grow your business.
Yeah. Something really weird happened for me about a month ago. I was at one of my best friend's wedding, and it was time for me to give a toast and then actually even sing a little song with my wife. And I got up there and I did a toast, and then I sang this song, and I felt fine. And afterward, I realized, like, wait, that's really weird. That's not how this would have been a year ago. Like, how come I wasn't really nervous or horrified? How come I had fun with that? And then I realized, it's because I've been pushing myself over quite a while now. Like, I've been making my podcast. I've been doing, quite a bit of public speaking. And because I pushed through that, something like giving a toast has now become a completely different experience where I just get to be myself.
Yeah. And again, I love that that journey you've been on, and that inner aha moment. You're like, oh, because I keep taking these steps outside that comfort zone, it's like, it's okay to be all of me. And the more, as we kind of circle totally back around to really the beginning of the conversation, the more we allow ourselves to be who we truly are and continue to take action and grow, that you-ness that really shows up will help build your business
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. If you're trying to be somebody that you're not, it comes across in your messages. It comes across in maybe not being able to connect so well with your clients that you're wanting to connect with. It's saying, hey, if I want my clients to be able to grow or to do whatever the service it is that I'm providing for them, I have to role model that as well.
Yeah. I think you're so right. There's no way around it. If you're feeling like you've got to push to be someone else, you're not going to succeed and you're going to burn out. It's just going to suck in so many ways.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm curious, is there a certain kind of, I don't know, maybe an exercise or a question that you help your clients kind of start to tap into their superpowers? Like, what's a good thing or one kind of step that clients, those that are listening now, like really kind of pausing for that moment to saying, oh, that is something to reflect on. Do you have something that kind of helps with that?
Do. Yeah. So one of them is, can I give two?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
I always like getting at these things from different angles because different things work for different people. Mm-hmm. So one of them is to ask yourself, what is too much about you? Like, what have you heard over your life? And maybe if you're self-critical at times, you think this of yourself, like, what's too much about you? And so it could be like, you're too introverted. You read too many books at parties. It could be, you're too loud. You're too bossy. Whatever it is that you have heard that kind of makes you cringe about yourself, there's something on the other side of that that is one of your superpowers. And I've never talked to somebody where we didn't get to something on the other side of that that's actually a strength and a gift and a superpower. So just notice throughout your day, think like, when I'm self-critical or when I'm trying to hold myself back from being a certain way, what is that thing?
And love that question. I'm just like, ooh, I can sit here and pause, but okay, yes, and
right. So Nicole, I'm curious, does something come up for you around that?
Yeah. So, when you say two and I'm like fill in the blank, I know I've been told over the years, I'm too sensitive or I'm too quiet or I'm too, sometimes I know I have a very loud laugh. And so I'm too loud. And so it's like, sometimes you get these mixed messages like, wait, I'm too quiet. Now I'm too loud. What does that mean? And it has held me back in certain areas where I'm like, oh, I'd better not say anything to that. Or, oh, I've got to reserve myself on this. And now as I've gotten older, it's like, if they don't like it, okay. Doesn't stop me being me.
Totally. And I'm thinking this one's really clear, right? That if you're too quiet, so you have a gift for quiet, that means, let's say if you're in a session or you're in an interview, anything, you're able to really listen, you're able to give space and truly be present.
Yes.
And that's a gift you're giving and giving and giving.
Yep.
And then combined with the loud laugh, I feel like that's perfect. Like if you were to try to bring that laugh down, then that also would mean that people you're interacting with don't feel your connection as much as it's really there.
Correct.
So that's a beautiful combination of being quiet and being completely loud and boisterous when there's something funny going on, or when there's something connected going on.
Yeah. And I think too, it's also going back to what we talked about, kind of role modeling. When we're more of our authentic self, it really does allow the client to be more of their authentic self. Yeah. So if I were to hold myself back when something literally tickles my funny bone, there's no way I can. And it's like, if I don't laugh out loud, then I show the client, oh, I need to hold that back. That may not be so-called, quote, safe to be able to go to that depth, that degree. And I'm like, no, bring it on. Let's go there. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The other thing that I would encourage people to do is just start noticing throughout your day, what is it? And this actually comes from a woman named Christine Wheeler, who came up with this idea of native genius. I really like this idea of throughout your day, notice, what do you love doing? Yeah. And then take that even more granular. So if it's like, let's say if I got through the day and I was like, I loved that conversation with Nicole, then it's like, okay, well, what did you love about it? And then I asked myself, okay, I think maybe it was an aha moment that I had in that conversation. Okay, what did you love about that aha moment? So you keep taking it more granular until you're really specifically noticing what are the moments when I'm having my largest contribution.
Oh, that is beautiful and extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Because I've talked about in like episode 1 where I talk about kind of self-reflection. It's being able to step back really into that observation role. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what you're doing. It's like letting go of any judgments but that doesn't fit into my normal, or this is weird, or wait, I can't. Anytime we stick a label on it or try to contain it, mm-hmm. right, versus being curious about it, that's how we get to reconnect with all of that. And like you're saying, going even deeper and finding what that is for you. Oh, I love that. Annie, I think I could actually have this conversation with you more and more and just kind of talk about how to really build such a successful business, as an introvert, because it sounds like you have a lot of tips and methods that you have really honed in on over the years. But alas, I know our time runs out. And so I want to let everybody know in our show notes, or in the show notes here, I will have Annie's website link and all of her social media links and all that stuff. But you can find her resources for any of you who are therapists with coachingwithannie.com. That's her website. And then you can find out more of kind of what her offerings are. And don't forget to check out her podcast, also the Therapist Clubhouse. There's a lot of great interviews on that and tips and tricks in there as well. So thank you so much, Annie, for being on and sharing your personal journey and how that we can still be all of who we are as introverted women and create successful businesses.
Thank you, Nicole. And it's just such a pleasure to get to talk to you and get to know you more and find out more about the incredible work that you're providing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Do you want to receive episodes directly to your inbox or stay informed on my latest offerings? Then I invite you to go out to NicoleBurgessCoaching.com/podcast, and there is a button for you to sign up for my newsletter. Thank you again.